Yo, what up guys, I'm back on a review for you. This time we have this baby Eto'O. Now, when I saw the money for this card, I was like, I'm 100% doing it because I've always wanted to try out Eto'O. And now I've got the opportunity. I thought, why not at the start of the year? Best time to try him. So, on stats then. He's 5'10", he's got medium low work rates, he's right footed with 4-star, 4-star. He's got 94 pace, 89 shooting, 78 passing, 86 dribbling, and 80 physical. So on paper, it looks like quite a good card to be fair. In the games I play with him, it was mostly in Elite Division rivals. It was some games in friendlies as well, because I was chilling out over the weekend because I was kind of stressed from playing FIFA too much. But yeah, most of the games in Elite Division, as you see, his record quite decent to be fair. But I'll speak more about that after. Please enjoy. If you do, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you after the clips. Peace. So before I get into the positive and negatives, right? I originally saw Nick. I think he was using the middle version of this card, and he called him a fraud right at the start of the year. And I didn't really take much notice of that because obviously I like Nick, and I watch his videos to see how good a card is. But I just thought I'd try him out for myself to see how good he is. Now, I do also think somewhat that Eto'O is a fraud. I don't think he's really that much of a fraud, but I do feel like at times he can be a bit, and I'll speak why on the negative side. But let's get into positives first then. So, for me first is the 4-star, 4-star. Now, 4-star skills, 4-star weak foot is always really nice to be fair. You can't really go wrong with the weak foot. It's really good to be fair overall. And the skills, it could be 5-star obviously, but generally speaking, 4-star skills is the minimum you really want in an attacker. And it just allows you to do a lot of skills that you maybe would want in the box. in like the higher skill divisions. Now, one of his key aspects to me was his pace. Now, this 100% was like amazing. I felt it's really, really fast in game. One of the fastest cars I've used this year, to be fair. He did really just burst through on goal and then get that like opportunity for himself. He wouldn't even need anyone else. Like, because this year a lot of players like mark the runs and like instead of marking the actual player, so they just like if a fast player like Eto'O could just run straight through on goal and just have a nice opportunity straight 1v1 with the keeper. Now, next up for me is going to be the tap positioning. Now, the tap positioning is really good, to be fair. I didn't really find that an issue with that. Like, generally speaking, he was always in the right position at the right time. Especially since I play, like, two-striker formation. He's always just in and around the middle, just waiting for the ball. Now, next up for me is going to be the finishing. Now, this is also going to go on the negative side of things, just because it was so inconsistent at times. Like, when it was going in, it was flying in. It was a proper nice shot, and that was because of the shot power as well. So, both of them two really, really nice, to be fair. Just made a very deadly strike in front of goal, and it was just very clinical. But then there's the other side of things, where he wouldn't be clinical, and let's say, like, it was like, one game he would be a monster, and then the next game he would just be horrible, and that's really not what you want from a card. But next to me is going to be the agility. Now, this was one of his better aspects, to be fair. I did really enjoy the agility. It was quite nice and quite smooth on the ball. Obviously, the 5-star skills would help with that agility, but generally speaking, in and around the box, really nice to just twist and turn with. Now, next up for me is the ball control. On the ball control for him, I didn't really have an issue with that at all. When you fired it at him with the R1X passes, generally it would just close control. Obviously, there here and there one that might go a little bit far from him, but generally he's got the pace to catch up to it, so it doesn't really matter. Now, next up for me is the composure stat. The composure stat for him really good, to be fair. As I talked about before, the shooting sometimes is really good, really bad. I can't even like blame it sometimes because it's the like bad being composure, because the composure is actually quite high, to be fair. And when he was like through on goal, sometimes when he had that opportunity, he would bag it, and that's probably because of composure and the finishing combined. So they were really nice aspects overall. Now, next up for me is going to be the jumping stat. Now, I know he's only 5'10", right? But 99 jumping with the Hawk Chem style at 5'10" is really, really nice, to be fair. You're not really going to use it that much because on like near post headers and that, you're not going to have him. But let's just say like the ball goes up in the air against like Kimpembe, he might have a chance of winning it because of that high jumping. Now, last for me is going to be the stamina. Now, this is perfectly good enough for a striker. I don't really recommend you playing him cam or wide cam, to be honest. I feel like he's just more of a out and out striker, but generally speaking, the stamina is really good for a striker. But for cam, like the passing's not good enough, and for a wide cam, I just don't feel like he would suit it necessarily. So only striker, and the stamina will last you all game. But there's all the positives, and now let's get to negatives. Now, as I just talked about on the positive side, my first negative is going to be the inconsistency. Now, I don't know why about this card. He always had like inconsistent opportunities. Like, let's say one chance he would bang it into the top bins, and the next chance he would put it wide. I don't know why that is, because I can't even like pinpoint into stats necessarily. I just generally think sometimes he's a bit of a fraud, like Nick said. So just be careful. A lot of times it is a little bit frustrating. Now, next up for me is the general passing. Now, this overall isn't the best, to be fair. Maybe the short pass is not bad, but the long pass is very bad. The vision's okay, to be fair, but generally speaking, he's not really a like pass and move kind of striker. He's more of like a pass it through to him and he'll try and get the opportunity himself. Because like, yeah, he can do 1-2 short passing and stuff like that, but I've tried a few long passes with him, to be fair, and they are really god awful. Like, the stats do, like, they are actually all what they say, the stats. Now, next up for me was one of the key like negatives for me was his balance. Now, this and his strength, so both of them, you normally expect low balance out of a taller striker, and he doesn't actually have the tall aspect to him. He's 5'10", and especially since he has like not that great strength, he will get pushed off quite a few times. Maybe he's got the pace like stay away from the defender, but generally speaking, if it's like a Varane or something, they will probably catch up to him, and then give him a push in the back, and he won't have the like composure and the balance to hold it. Now, next up for me is going to be the reaction stat. Now, the reaction stat for him, I did feel was a little bit slow at times. The pace kind of counteracted it, but generally speaking, the reactions, I did feel was a little bit slow, and I could actually feel that in game. It was actually quite frustrating. Now, last is the head accuracy. Now, the head accuracy at 80, because he's jumping so high, you actually really want him near post, especially with a 99 jumping. But the head accuracy, it's not bad, to be fair, but this year and last year, since like manual heading, you really got to have like high head accuracy stats, otherwise the keeper's just going to save a lot of them, so I wouldn't recommend really sticking onto his head. Now, I know that's all for my negatives, but I'm going to generally like try and talk a bit more about his negatives and go more in depth. So the shooting, I just don't know why it was, but like every time you went near post or something like that, the keeper would save it or he put it wide. I don't know what it was about this Eto'O card, but he just seemed to be really fraudy near post, so just be very careful of that. So, on to overall scores then. Now, first is the pace. Now, the pace, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I did really find this really electric in game, to be fair. His height didn't really affect his pace, and he just looked really fast in game, so that was a really nice aspect about him. One of his better aspects. Now, the shooting for me overall was decent, but as I was talking about on the negative side, he is a bit inconsistent at times. So the shooting, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I do think that's fair, to be fair, because, like, let's say the opportunity where you're 90th minute and it's 2-all, you need to have that goal to get you, I don't know, rank 2, rank 1, whatever. And he will miss it, and you'll be like, he's literally cost me 1.3 million, why is he missing that? But just be careful of that. Now, the passing overall, I don't think it's good at all. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. The short pass is the only one that really like resurrects it. The vision's okay, but because the long pass is so bad, it kind of counteracts it. But the short pass is the only thing that you can really like do with him. You just bounce it off like your other striker or other attacker, shall I say. Now, the dribbling overall, the agility is good, the composure is good, the actual ball control is quite decent, to be fair, but then the other stats are okay, so overall for that, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. I was going to give it a 7 then, but I just do feel like the agility was actually really nice in game, and you did really feel swift with him on the ball, considering he is 5'10". Now, the physical stats overall, so they're not necessarily bad. The jumping and stamina is good. The strength's okay, but because of his height, he doesn't really feel that strong. So overall for the physical, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I do think that's fair, because his stamina is decent, his jumping is decent, but the other aspects kind of let it down a little bit. So, value for coins then. So, coming in around 1.2 to 1.3 million. Do I think it's worth it? I'm going to be honest and say no. I'd honestly rather you get Puskas. I think Puskas would do you a lot better. The only reason you get Eto'O is for Cameroon links, and I just like, why would you ever do that? Like, no. So I would honestly recommend you Puskas over him for the same price. I think Puskas is just worlds above this card. He's got the passing, he's got more agility. The weak foot sometimes even feels better because of the near post shots with Eto'O. I don't know why. So value for coins, then I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. That's just purely because sometimes he's a little bit of a fraud, as Nick says. So overall score then for me, I'm going to give it a 8.4 out of 10. I know obviously since like I've had previous reviews like maybe like a month or two ago, I've had a higher score than like a lot worse a card, but that's just because of what time of year it is. So just make sure you're watching this like, or like looking at the date when you are watching this. Let's say you're watching this like 2 months time, it might be a little bit worse now because there's a lot better cards out, but we'll see. But so for my review, as always, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so if you help me towards that, I'd really appreciate it. But I've got nothing more to say, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and peace.